Obesity has become an epidemic, and people need to be far more concerned about it than they are. Most people are overweight because food is all around us, it is cheap, it is available, and it's there all the time. So people tend to overeat just because it's there.
The United States has become one of the fattest nations in the world, and it's only getting worse.
When I grew up as a kid, there were less than 5% of kids were fat, less than 20% of adults were fat. Now, about 60% of adult Americans are overweight or obese, and the figure for children is near 30%, I think. One of the things that we recognize is that obesity is increasing among children. There are statistics that show that the generation of my children, meaning you, because you are much younger than I am, you could be my child, your life expectancy for the first time is lower than my life expectancy. That is unheard of in our history. Every generation has a longer life expectancy, but that's no longer true. And that's because children nowadays are showing up with type 2 diabetes, which is adult onset diabetes, that was never before seen in children until recent years.
And that is because more and more people, including children, are becoming obese. This map shows the increasing trend in the past 20 years of the percentage of people who are obese in the United States by state. Each color represents a greater percentage of obese people. Over the past 20 years, obesity rates have skyrocketed all over the country. This is a huge problem because obesity can have very dangerous implications.
It increases your risk for getting diabetes, for getting heart disease, for getting arthritis of your knees, of getting certain kinds of cancer. So why are we overfat now? Because we eat too much relative to the amount of calories that we expend in any kind of work. We do a lot of eating, and we do very little movement. And those are two main things that are making us a very unhealthy society. Most people are not meeting what the recommended suggestions are for how much exercise to do a day. Being well is a factor of exercise as an everyday part of life and eating the right foods, eating a balanced diet, and knowing what a balanced diet is. There are many people in our communities who don't know what a balanced diet is. There are kids who grow up not knowing what certain fruits look like. It's not cheap to eat healthy. It's much cheaper to go out and buy a $1.99 Happy Meal rather than a full meal, balanced meal with fruits and vegetables and all of the right nutrients. Unfortunately, a Happy Meal sounds happy, but a Happy Meal has a lot of fat in it, has a lot of salt, and these are all things that are not, that when eaten out of moderation can have ill effects on children, especially if it's eaten every day, which in some cases it is, and especially when it is the only thing and it's not balanced with raw vegetables such as in salad or fruits and vegetables. I mean, kids should be eating 5 a day, 5 fruits and vegetables a day. So what do we eat? Obviously, fruits, vegetables, whole grains will give us all of these nutrient requirements. That seems so simple, and I think it seems simple to people who have grown up with fruits and vegetables around them, and with fruits and vegetables as part of their everyday life, and just fresh fruits, not just fruits and vegetables, but fresh food that isn't full of preservatives, food that isn't full of fat. So something like soda would be an example of what I would call a complete waste of calories. Another example would be a McDonald's milkshake or a McDonald's hamburger. Not only are these have saturated fats that are very bad for you, but there's a lot of calories. The other thing about the other McDonald's foods, like or any other fast food, would be that they have just about a ton of salt. More salt than your body would ever need. So Chicken McNuggets have 2 grams of sodium. That's your daily requirement, that's it. That is more salt than a nutritionist would recommend that anybody eat in a day. There are a lot of food insecure people in this country where they're really not sure they're not going to get enough food, so buying something cheap for a couple of bucks becomes very attractive. Fruits and vegetables are expensive. McDonald's hamburgers are cheap, and there are a lot of calories.
So who is ingesting all these calories? Young people take a major share, but they aren't the only ones.
Well, actually, the lower your income, the more likely it's going to be that you're obese.
The neighborhoods that have the lowest income residents are typically the neighborhoods of color, African Americans, Latinos primarily. And those are the neighborhoods that have the least amount of service, the least amount of access.
In poor neighborhoods, it's harder to walk because it's dangerous. In poor neighborhoods, there are less facilities. It's less likely you're going to go to a gym.
A lot of neighborhoods complain of having parks, but parks where there's drug activity, parks where there is where the equipment is not well maintained.
So in the state of Maryland, 2/3 of the population is obese or overweight, and 1/3 of the children are overweight. Those are enormous numbers. 6% of the state of Maryland is diabetic, and that's directly proportional to the rise in the incidence of obesity. Particularly if you get overweight or obese when you're very young, this means that it's going to probably make it more difficult for you as an adult to maintain a healthy weight. It puts you at risk for getting diabetes, and we've seen a tremendous diabetes epidemic amongst children. It puts you at risk for getting heart attacks, and it's going to shorten your life. If we have a generation of children who's obese and used to doing a minimum amount of activity, their risk for disease and the likelihood that they're going to have to deal with disabilities over the course of their lifetime is greatly increased.
The signs of heart disease or future heart disease are showing up in children, and that's because children aren't exercising and they're eating the wrong things.
There's also the stigma of obesity. People, even physicians, tend to be prejudiced against obese people. Obese people are less likely to be hired for a job. When you give little kids and you say, pictures of different size kids and say, who do you want to play with? They don't want to play with the obese kid. If you put the obese kid next to a deaf kid and a blind kid and a kid on crutches, and you say, who do you want to play with? They will pick the obese kid last. So in a certain environment where food is abundant, these people, in fact, 50% of the population tends to overeat.